Welcome to Studio RC, an encouragement for your recovery and your faith. My name is Max, and I am an alcoholic, and I'm sober today only by the grace of God and the fellowship of the program as contained in the literature. I am also a Christian and follower of Jesus. So we are starting a brand new series called Anchors in the Storm. It's almost sort of a continuation from our theme of the ship in our conference this year, and this sort of complements that. But what you're going to be listening to is it's a 6-part series all about spiritual anchors that keeps us grounded in both our recovery and our faith. In life, storms are guaranteed, but God has given us anchors, promises, prayer, scripture, fellowship, service, and hope. And that hold firm when everything else is shaking. So whether you're listening in the car, your living room, or on a walk, taking a break, settle in and let's drop anchor together as we visit the various anchors in the storm. Hey, Studio RC family, welcome back to another episode of Anchors in the Storm. We've talked about the anchors of God's promises, of prayer, of scripture. But here's the thing, even with all those anchors, storms can still make us feel isolated, alone. And when isolation sets in, relapse is often not far behind. And that's why today's anchor, this episode's anchor, is so critical. The anchor of fellowship. Because none of us were meant to weather the storm alone. And let's be real, storms feel worse when we're alone. But fellowship reminds us we don't have to face recovery or life by ourselves. One of the things I love about the steps is it says, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol. It uses we language throughout all the steps. Why? Because we do this together. Jesus could have done his ministry all by himself, but he surrounded himself with 12 others to speak into their lives, to carry the message to them and have them carry the message that he provided. So even Jesus didn't do it alone. And so we know that it's better together. Hebrews 10:24 and 25 tells us, let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, but encouraging one another. Now notice it doesn't say try to do it by yourself and white knuckle your way through. It says don't give up meeting together. Why? Because encouragement flows in community. Because when my faith is shaky, maybe yours can hold me up and vice versa. I think in early recovery, as the fog starts to lift, how many of us tried on our own to make recovery happen and we just couldn't? It wasn't an issue of strength or willpower. We weren't in a position to do it by ourselves. But interestingly, when we started to go to meetings and started to go to recovery church and maybe even attended group sessions at rehab or IOP, all of a sudden, we were able to stay sober collectively with others. Hebrews 10, it tells us to keep meeting together, encouraging one another, because isolation is dangerous. When we feel all alone and we feel like we're misunderstood and people don't get us, the enemy whispers lies when we're alone. Fellowship drowns those lies out with truth and support. Fellowship isn't optional. It's survival. We do this together. Whether it's recovery, whether it's faith, whether it's recovery and faith, we do it together. The example has always been shown to us that it's done together. Fellowship is so important. Connecting with other people, knowing that you're not alone, being understood, being heard. It's so important. The big book tells us on page 89, life will take on new meaning. To watch people recover, to see them help others, this is an experience you will not want to miss. Fellowship is that experience. Again, whether it's church or recovery church or a small group or when you go to a recovery meeting, it's people walking with you, holding you accountable, cheering you on. One of the things I love about the rooms of recovery is how genuinely we cheer for one another. If someone gets 30 days, usually the place goes crazy. They're more excited about someone who has 30 days than someone who has 30 years. And if someone hits a milestone, like they get to 90 days, it's not like, those 90 days somehow take away from whatever recovery time I have. It doesn't work that way. People genuinely want to see others get sober and stay sober. And so there's great encouragement and affirmation in the beginning of the journey and throughout the journey because we believe in fellowship. AA knew from the very start. Step 12 says we carry this message to others and we practice these principles in all our affairs. It's all other-centric. The big book tells us practical experience shows us that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. When we work with those who are struggling, whether they get sober or not, we stay sober. Ideally, they'll hear the message and they'll also be encouraged and changed. But even if they're not, we are. And so that's our practical experience. You want to be have immunity from drinking and drugging, work with others, intensively work with others. So it's basically, you want to stay clean, you want to stay sober, stay connected. Recovery is contagious, but so is isolation. Fellowship keeps us anchored. I'll never forget the first meeting I went to. I was scared, didn't really know what to expect. I did think everyone was going to be judging me. And at the very end of the meeting, my first meeting, someone said, "Would you like to share?" I said, "Sure." And I said, "Hi, my name is Max, and I may have a problem with alcohol," which was very rich, which was very big of me because, ironically, 2 weeks earlier, I was going, doing keg stands and going, "I'm an alcoholic." But, the moment I get into a meeting, I'm like, well, I may have a problem with alcohol. We'll see. We'll see if I acquiesce to you people. And they didn't laugh at me. They didn't throw me out. They didn't chide me for my ego and insecurity. And I remember sharing, I was 19 years old, so I was pretty early. I was pretty young when I got here. And I remember saying, I never doubted I'd be in AA. I just figured it'd be when I was older, like 30. And everybody in the room laughed. But they didn't laugh at me. They were laughing with me. And I felt instant acceptance. It was that kind of moment that anchored me. I didn't know if I believed in God yet, but I knew that I wasn't alone anymore. That hand was fellowship. And that fellowship kept me coming back just like at the end of the meeting, my fingers were always crossed. I was always hoping someone would invite me across the street to the Friendlies and maybe buy me ice cream for after the meeting, and that would happen periodically. That was always a good day. But that was fellowship, hanging out, eating ice cream or getting fries or going to a ball game or sober dance or whatever it was, just doing things sober and with people. I had to learn, I had to figure out I could do things sober. I wasn't so sure. What's life going to look like? Am I ever going to be allowed to leave my house? Fellowship extended that so that I knew I could interact, I could be a part of, and I could live life, which is, the joy of living. That is, the focus. It's not the word's not focus that they use, but the theme. That's what it's the theme of the 12th step. The joy of living. That's what it says. And so we didn't get sober to be dour and sad and miserable at home. It's so that we can embrace life, enjoy life, have joy in our lives. Now, fellowship, it just keeps me steady. Recently, feeling a little overwhelmed, things going on. Felt like I was like, I don't want to go to the meeting today. We sometimes feel that way, but I did. I was taught there are 2 times when you need to go to a meeting: when you want to, and when you don't. And when you don't, that's especially when you need to go to a meeting. So I'm in the habit of not missing meetings and shared at the meeting. But someone came up to me after the meeting and said, "Hey, thanks for sharing. You said exactly what I needed to hear tonight." And it hit me. I didn't think I had much or anything to give, but God used the fellowship to remind me I have a place. I still have a place. Even when I'm worn down, even when I'm stressed, when I show up, God can use me. God can speak through each and every one of us. Sometimes we need the group, and sometimes the group needs us. I think of the early church as described in Acts 2. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. They ate together with glad and sincere hearts. In early church, in the church of Acts, the church exploded, not because of slick programs or incredible worship or light shows, but because they were together. They shared life. Fellowship was their anchor, and it still is ours. What was incredible about that fellowship is they lived together in a way that was different than the rest of the people around them. People saw how they were living and how they were sharing and how they were encouraging, and people said, this is different. I think when you go, whether it's to a church, whether you go to a meeting, anybody who observes the love, the grace, the camaraderie, the fellowship will recognize this is different. This isn't like a lot of other organizations that I'm a part of or that I'm a member at. This is different. And that's why it's such an anchor. That anchor is attractive to others. It's one of the things that help bring people in and let them, they'll stay because there's this element of fellowship that's unique. These people get me and they don't want to throw me out. They want to keep me. One of the things in recovery we do really a great job is we don't shoot our wounded. We bring them in. We try to help them get healed up and so that they can really, make a real run at this whole sobriety and being clean thing. So what does this look like in our daily life? What does fellowship look like? First off, don't isolate. Show up to meetings, even when you don't feel like it. That's one of the reasons service is so important. if you're responsible for something, like whether it's putting out the chairs, making the coffee, being a greeter, you really make an effort to be there. You don't want to let the group down. And so you'll show up even if you're having a bad day, even if you've thought twice about going. It helps us, service helps us to not isolate. Invest in relationships, exchange number, grab coffee, pray for each other. Whether, hey, can I pray for you right now? Or, hey, just know during my prayer time, I was praying for you. I was praying that God would be with you, that God would guide you in your recovery. I was praying that your higher power would become more and more apparent to you, more and more tangible, so that you could understand and have a greater connection. Whatever it is, but invest in relationships. Sponsorship is another great way. Now, if you've completed the steps, one of the things we should be doing is leading people through the steps. Now, if you haven't completed the steps yet, you'll get there. You can help, you can point the way, but sponsorship, but all of that is investing in other people. Another thing you can do, that we can do, be honest. Fellowship isn't about pretending everything's fine. It's about sharing both the victories and the struggles. One thing I was great at in my addiction was small talk. I was great chatting people up and just talking, and we'd talking about nothing, talking about the weather, talking about very superficial things. But once I got into recovery, I didn't want to swim in the shallow end. I wanted to live in the deep end. Now, you can't live in the deep end, and not everyone's ready for the deep end, but I wasted a lot of time with superficial conversation and shallow conversation, and a lot of it was lies. I lied so that you would think more highly of me, that you would like me, that like if I just paint the right picture. And the hard part with lying, not only does it take up energies, I got to remember what I said. Just be honest. It takes way less energy. And if you're always honest, you never have to remember what you said, because you're always saying the truth. Fellowship is like co-anchoring your boat. Like, you do it together. Even if my anchor may slip a little bit, but if you're there, you can help me, and vice versa. Together we stay steady. Like when you call up your friend and you say, I've had a hard day and I was thinking about drinking. I was thinking about getting high. And they're like, no, you don't want to do that. Or, hey, let's go grab a bite to eat. Or fellowship, playing out, being together, doing life together. Here's how to anchor in fellowship. Show up regularly. Don't just, even when you don't feel it, you show up. You don't isolate. You help others. Give back. Encourage someone else. We need each other. Fellowship isn't optional. It's oxygen. You can be oxygen to somebody else who might be feeling lonely. And vice versa. The fellowship can be the oxygen when we're feeling lonely or a little out of place. This week, attend one meeting or gathering that you were tempted to skip. And instead of leaving right after the Lord's Prayer, stay and connect with at least one person. So this week's anchor practices: make one intentional connection. Share a number and get someone's number and text them right away, or call them right away so that you have it, and then follow up the next day. Make that connection, especially if you're not good at that or it's a challenge. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. Call someone from the group just to check in. If you have a thought of somebody, that's a great opportunity to reach out. Hey, just wanted you to know I was thinking about you and I prayed for you today. More times than not, when God has brought somebody to mind, more times than not that they needed a little encouragement, or they needed me to reach out, and it really was important. So yeah, don't be afraid to reach out. Don't wait until you're drowning. Build that anchor line now. And I'll ask you this: who in your circle helps keep you anchored? And how can you encourage them this week? Maybe it's your sponsor. Maybe you need to tell them, hey, I really appreciate all that you do for me. I appreciate your encouragement. I appreciate how you walked me through the steps. Maybe it's a friend you go to meetings with who picks you up or you pick them up. Hey, you know what? I really love going to meetings with you. I really appreciate conversation with you. I really appreciate doing meals before or after. Thank you. Show that appreciation. Encourage others. So far, we've looked at the anchors of promise, prayer, scripture, and now this episode, fellowship. Fellowship holds us together, but it's not just about receiving. There's one more anchor that really flips the script. It's not about what we receive, but what we give. And that's the anchor of service. And we'll talk about that next episode, about how serving others is one of the most powerful ways to stay steady ourselves. Throughout all of the episodes, service seems to be one of those threads that goes throughout. So until then, stay anchored, stay ready, and remember, we're rooting for you. Thanks so much for coming to Studio RC. That's today's episodes of Anchors in the Storm. And remember, storms may come, but God's anchors always hold. If this encouraged you, we encourage you, share it with somebody who needs that steady ground today in their recovery or in their faith. And don't forget, stay spiritually fit. Keep coming back and stay connected to the source, the true higher power. Until next time, this is Studio RC reminding you we're rooting for you. We are behind you. We love you. And thank you so much. And just remember, Recovery Church, 12 steps, one goal. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.